The sales invoicing window is used to create customer invoices for items which you have shipped or services you have provided. Remember that invoices do impact the amount in accounts receivable. To view the sales invoicing form, select Tasks, then Sales Invoicing from the menu bar. The invoice window is very similar in appearance to the other sales forms, but there are two tabs here which do not appear in any other window: the Apply to Sales Order/Proposal tab and the Apply to Sales tab. The Apply to Sales tab is where you enter items and services you are selling directly to customers without using either the Sales Order or Proposal windows. On the Apply to Sales tab, you simply enter the items you are selling, their quantities, and their amounts. Alternately, the Apply to Sales Order/Proposal tab allows you to invoice for and/or ship selected items from a sales order or proposal to the customer. This tab will come forward over the Apply to Sales tab if the selected customer has an outstanding sales order or an accepted proposal. Now remember, you must have checked the Accept Proposal checkbox within a customer's proposal and then saved it before that information can appear on the Apply to Proposal tab. You then use the drop-down shown on this tab to select from which sales order or proposal you want to ship the items, and those items will then appear in the tab's Line Items area. Now, if you selected a sales order, you simply need to input for how many of each of the listed items you will be invoicing and shipping. If you selected an accepted proposal, then the Select Percentage to Bill dialog box appears instead. Here you can choose either what percentage of the proposal to invoice or for which items in the proposal you wish to invoice. This is used for partial or progress billing for projects. You can select the first option button in this dialog box to invoice for the remaining amount in the proposal. You can select the second option button to invoice for a selected percentage of all of the items in the proposal. You then enter the percentage to invoice into the adjacent percent to bill field. You can select the third option to manually specify the quantities and/or amounts to invoice for each line item in the Line Items area of this tab. After selecting your choice, click the OK button to continue. If you selected the third option button, you can then enter the quantity or bill percent to invoice for each line item shown in this tab. On either tab, you can enter the serial numbers of items you are selling if you are selling either serialized stock or serialized assembly items. To do this, select the line for the first serialized item in the Line Items area of the form. Ensure that all of the serialized items have the correct quantities to sell listed within the quantity column. Then click the Serial Number button in the toolbar at the top of the window to open the Serial Number Selection dialog box. You can then click the serial numbers of the items you want to sell. You can use the Find feature at the top of the dialog box if needed. After selecting the correct quantity of serial numbers, double-check the quantity selected at the bottom of the dialog box. You can then click the OK button to return to the sales invoicing form, or click the OK/Next button to save the selected serial numbers and move to the next serialized item to sell within the form. Doing this prevents you from having to close and reopen this window multiple times if selling multiple serialized items in a single invoice. At the bottom of this window, check the tax code of the customer to ensure it is set correctly. You can change it if it isn't. You can enter any freight amount if needed. Remember, the amounts you input into this box are associated with the expense account you set for freight in the Item Defaults window. You can also use freight as an individual line item within the Line Items area of the invoice if having only one freight account is inadequate for your business needs. The customer account information is shown in the lower left corner. After a customer is selected, this area shows their receivable balance, credit limit, and credit status as of the current date. Clicking the balance shown in this area displays a report on the selected customer. When you're done creating the invoice, you can click the Save button in the toolbar at the top of the Sales Invoicing window. Now, there are a few ways to print invoices that you have entered in the Sales Invoicing window. If you do not intend to print invoices in Sage 50, but simply enter them for accounting purposes, then type the actual invoice number assigned to the invoice into the invoice number field in the upper right corner of the sales form and then save the form. You will then be able to receive payments against the invoice in the Receive Money window at a later point in time. If you do wish to print invoices in Sage 50, then you will not enter an invoice number into the form. Instead, decide if you want to print just one invoice or a batch of invoices. If you want to print just one invoice at a time, you can display the invoice to print in the Sales Invoicing window, and then click the Print button in the toolbar at the top of the window. You can then print the selected invoice using the form you select and also assign the invoice number while printing the invoice. If you wish to print a batch of invoices, you should first create and save the invoices without assigning them an invoice number. Then select Reports and Forms and choose Accounts Receivable from the menu bar to open the Select a Report or Form window. Click the Forms tab in the upper left corner of the window to display the forms associated with the Accounts Receivable category. Ensure that the Invoice and Packing Slips choice is selected within the Form Type scrollable list in the upper left corner of the window. Then select the desired type of invoice to use from the choices shown in the Forms list below that. Then click the Preview and Print button at the right side of the window below the preview of the form displayed to open a separate dialog box where you can set the criteria that will be used to decide which invoices to print. After changing any criteria that appear at the left side of the window, you may need to click the Refresh List button to refresh the listing of invoices to print, which should then appear at the right side of the window. Once you see the desired batch of invoices to print appear within the list at the right side of the window, you can then click the Print/Email button to print the selected invoices.